Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Joel and Adam for another episode of whatever this show is that we've been doing. I guess we're doing the 12 Days of Fistmas now.
12 Days of Fistmas.
And
Yep.
before we start, I want to give Joel the floor to plug something, and then we're going to move into Supercop.
It sounds a little risque when you say it like that, but no, here's my plug. I'm doing a new Kickstarter for Lone Wolf Fist, Acid and Steel, adding demons and robots to the already kung fu post-apocalypse. Just got really deep into writing one of the sets of powers for one of the Ashura, the fallen devil gods, and I'm going to be making that available here on DriveThruRPG for about $2. Patreon's also spending $2. We'll get it for free, and you can also join us on the Fistiverse, where I'll be spoiling the hell out of it for everyone. That's our Discord server, so look for that coming up pretty soon, and that'll be all for this time. That's my big plug. Put some demons in your post-apocalypse.
And so to get onto the show, we're going to be doing Supercop. So this is an odd one because it's I always think of it as Police Story 3, but it's also was released in the US as Supercop, and there are two different versions. And we had to do the Supercop version because that was the one that was available on Amazon. And I was going to watch them both, but I just didn't have time. So I didn't, I remember Police Story 3, but I can't do like a point-by-point comparison. So Police Story 3 or Supercop is a film starring Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh, and it was directed by Stanley Tong. And in the movie, a Hong Kong detective teams up with his female red Chinese counterpart to stop a Chinese drug czar. And I'd say that's the IMDb breakdown. I'd say that's pretty accurate because the story is pretty straightforward, as we were talking about before the episode. Now, was this both of your first time seeing this, or had either of you seen it before?
First time.
Okay, so who wants to go first? Because I want to get people's reaction to it as a first-time viewing.
I went first last time. I think it's Joel's turn.
Rats. Okay, so I really liked this movie. I didn't have a lot of deep thoughts while watching it, but I think that it's one of those movies where there was never a point where it sagged. Like every single scene felt like it had a purpose and it was entertaining. Jackie Chan, of course, is incredibly charismatic and carries the entire film on his tiny, efficient little shoulders. I didn't expect him, like a lot of the jokes in the movie, it's a funny movie. A lot of the jokes in the movie, especially early on, center around him being kind of like he's almost like a swaggering, like cool cop kind of dude, he's not like super capable as a fighter or huge or muscular or anything. And they keep like comparing him to these like super highly trained, really strong, robust cops, or really intelligent, like efficient cops. And he keeps like coming up short. But then like as the movie goes on, he's the one who's constantly rocking out every single scene and getting them out of tough spots and all this stuff with his he's like his swagger. And he doesn't use like, he's not like hyper efficient at one thing. He's just kind of good at everything and really charming. And that seems to be enough to get him through. So that was surprising. I didn't realize the movie was going to be that, but I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed a lot of the stuff that they do in the movie where they just take there's a scene where there's this minecart that's going up this steep hill, and Jackie Chan throws Panther into it, this guy that he's saving to set him up later, and he throws the switch and the minecart speeds up the hill, so he goes running after it. And you wouldn't think that would be such an intense scene, but if you ever ran up a hill, and there's a lot of opportunity to do that here, he's just getting more and more just exhausted and winded and miserable by the end of it. The movie does a lot of that, where it like takes real physical obstacles that you could encounter as an actual human being and says, let's see what a really capable dude would how they would deal with this. And they're no less thrilling or satisfying to watch. So even just kind of grounding it that way, it makes the movie really have a kind of particular thrill to it, a particular charm. So I really appreciated that. Let me see what else. It's a movie where I didn't have to pay a ton of attention to it. I kind of found myself like every once in a while, like because my kids are here right now, I'd like go and be like, oh, hey, don't do that. And I'd go off and I'd do something with them and I'd come back. The movie was still going and I didn't lose the thread. So that was pretty great. There's a few key scenes, but for the most part, it's pretty direct and doesn't overcomplicate itself. The characters are all likable. I really liked all of them. I liked the dynamic between him and his partner and his girlfriend because they do just enough with that for it not to be annoying, but enough that it's really fun and there's a lot of unique stuff with it. So,
by the way, that's a similar dynamic to the first movie, where his girlfriend and then there's like another woman that's involved in the plot and
Really?
and then him. Yeah. It's very similar to the first. There's a lot of stuff in this one that's very similar to the first one, but I think this one's actually better. But go on. I'm sorry.
No, man, that's great. Like, if you know what works, do it. And that's kind of a thing from wuxia films too, where I'm never super surprised when I go and see like a 1970s or 80s wuxia film, but like I don't care. Like, it's entertaining. It works. They're following the rules of drama really well, and they're developing their characters, and they're giving you what you want out of it. Like, what's the issue? I think that we've kind of gotten obsessed a little bit in modern days with subverting expectations or doing something unique, and it's like, well, yes, but also you can just do what works.
I don't want to cut Adam off, but just triggering a thought that I did want to get to, which is that something very nice about having a simple storyline on which you sort of are able to have all of these really intense action sequences play out. Because I feel like if the story is overly complicated, like I don't remember Police Story 2 that well, but I remember the plot, I think, being a little more complicated than 1 or 3. And I feel like that might have hindered it more than the first and the third one. I could be wrong because it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm sure there are other examples of movies where that is the case, where if you just have too much complexity mixed in with the action, especially one that's kind of like, I don't know, comedic in the way that this one is, you'd be thinking too much while you're watching these thrilling stunts. So, but Adam, you should go for your reaction to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie built around the set pieces. And to go to Joel's point, I mean, the fact this is kind of a pre-CGI movie that is all on actual locations with people doing things with actual mine carts and actual trucks and doing the actors even doing their own stunts. I feel like if someone was doing that mine cart scene as a CGI thing, it's like you wouldn't get that same he's running out of breath thing, because the person writing it and doing the effect, it would be a CGI model with the actor's head going up, and they wouldn't even think about the fact. Whereas Jackie Chan as the person doing all of it, I don't know, there's just this feeling of authenticity. Even, I mean, this is a ridiculous, over the top action movie. I don't want to say this is gritty, hardened realism. It's really over the top, but the fact that it's all physically being done just gives it this really satisfying feel. It's great.
Well,
it's deceptively. Go ahead.
Okay, so that I want to, because you're right about the action movie thing. That scene of him running up the minecart is bookended with the scene of him going down the zip line, which is super over the top. So.
Yeah. And once again, the fact they're really on that zip line too, it's like they are high up. It's like I did have this momentary feeling of vertigo of just like, whoa, that's whereas once again, if this was a CGI scene, it would be like, wee video game characters, know.
I think people forget, like, part of the draw of a movie like this back when these were coming out was, that you knew that they were real, that's why they played the outtakes at the end of the movie, right? Because and people stayed to watch the outtakes because they knew they were coming. It's deceptively comedic because they're doing incredibly dangerous stuff, and it's really the actors. Like, that's really Michelle Yeoh jumping onto the car and smashing her head on the pavement. That's really Jackie Chan hanging from a helicopter in the sky above a city. He's leaping onto the ladder of a. It's really insane stunt work with the actors involved. And there might be other stunt people peripherally. I don't know, like, how, if it's like 100% or 90, but it's like the big sequences, it's them, and you don't get that feeling that we used to get as kids. I'm sure you remember this, Adam, because it was really bad in the 80s, where you'd be watching like a TV show or a movie, and it was just clearly a different guy leaping onto the car. He's like fatter. He's got a mullet, and the lead actor doesn't have a mullet. There's just like obvious differences. It's, but on this you can see her hanging on the car as they're driving through the city, and she's like on the edge, and that there's a scene like that. There's a lot of scenes in this movie that mirror Police Story 1. So there's a scene just like that with Jackie Chan in Police Story 1, where he's hanging on to, I think, some kind of van or something, driving through the city. There's also, just a lot of similar beats in terms of the action, but yeah, I think that's what makes this so special, is if this were filled with, like you're saying, CGI and stuntmen, it wouldn't be the same. It
No.
would lose some kind of element to it. And also the martial arts sequences too. Like there's some really great martial arts sequences in this piece. And again,
Yeah.
like Joel said, he's not supposed to be like the best martial. Like there's a scene where he's supposed to be pretending to be a Chinese national or something, and so they have all these pictures taken of him to establish evidence that he's really from China. And part of his background is that he's a martial arts. His fake background for the new identity is he's a martial arts expert. So they have him holding a spear, but they had just had him in Peking opera makeup and they didn't take off the lipstick yet. They'd taken off the rest of it. And just the scene with him just like mugging for the camera with the lipstick on and the spear. It was so wonderful. And I don't know what I like about Jackie Chan's martial arts and movies, and what I like about him in general is there's not a lot of ego in it. Like I'm sure maybe he has a huge ego in real life. I have no idea. But the way that yeah, I've always heard he's a nice guy. I don't know. But I like that when I see the action, I don't know, you just don't get this sense of, it's like the opposite of Bruce Lee. Like, like I love Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee definitely has a much bigger ego than Jackie Chan. And, Jackie Chan has there's like a humility to it, where it's sort of like the comedy is the central thing. And he's willing to look like a doofus, but you can still tell this guy is extremely talented. Like there's just,
he managed to simultaneously play the underdog while being one of the most fantastic physical actors of all time, which is a fantastic talent to have.
And also Michelle Yeoh in this one is, I think, amazing. Like
Yeah, I haven't watched an old Michelle Yeoh movie in a while, and I've seen a lot of her more recent stuff lately. Like, oh yeah, this is Michelle Yeoh when she was an action star. Wow.
Yeah, like the scene that stands out for me. Well, I mean, number one, the dirt bike onto the train was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty.
That actually made me gasp because it's her.
Yeah.
Well,
and you see the outtakes where she doesn't land it right,
just
too.
Goes off the other side, and lands on a pile of mattresses. It's just like, oh my god. Yeah, that's. This is a movie if you're an actor. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love the fight sequences too, and I like the chemistry that she has with Jackie Chan in the movie. Like just they're perfect for each other physically. Like they're both very high level performers, and on top of that, they can hit all the right comedic beats. And I think it's easy to watch a movie like this and say, oh, it looks like they make it look easy, so you don't realize how impressive it is until you see like a bad version of it somewhere. Then you're like, oh, now I get just how difficult this was. But this is like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton level physical comedy. Like I think he's got to be in like the top 3 in terms of people who can do physical comedy.
This definitely made me think of The General watching it, like that big chase scene at the end. It's on a similar level to that.
Well, I think there's a lot of callbacks, but that scene where they're in the general's camp there, and that's actually played by Lo Lei. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I actually didn't know until I looked at the Wikipedia. I'm like, oh, that's Lo Lei. I was kind of in the movie. I wasn't even thinking about who the actor was watching it, but I did get just a hint of familiarity there.
You can see a little of that Lo Lei chart, like that when he's laughing and things like he's some of it reminds you of some of the villains that he's played in the past. But that scene's, I think that's the scene where I really like the scene where she's wearing the vest that's full of dynamite. And there's just all these, and I think I sent you a clip of it even before we saw the movie.
You did.
But I love that scene. And I also love the scene when him and her are dealing with the when they're sort of bringing Panther to that restaurant, and the security forces start coming in, and just the martial arts sequences, just I don't know, they just I just really like the physical performances in the fight sequences, especially like the kicking and things like that.
Man, that fight sequence too, the one in the fortress where they just blow everything up, that was great. I love the escalation of that, because it started off as like just not even a negotiation, but like a party almost. And then it went to negotiation, and then it just kept escalating.
Doesn't he kill somebody with a durian fruit?
Yeah, those durians come back at the end too to haunt poor Jackie Chan. But like, I like that was a running gag, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, he kills somebody with a durian, and as someone who has eaten a durian in his life, I mean, relatable.
Yeah, my wife likes durian, so
They taste like dirty armpits, man. I don't understand how anyone could like that.
It's an acquired taste.
I mean, durians are the foot fetish of the fruit world, dude. There's just something off about them.
No, you know what they are? They're like somebody, because I remember I complained about it once, and the person said to me, "Well, don't you guys eat cheese? Like, don't you think that's revolting?" You know, so it's one of these things where I think it's more like it's like the blue cheese of the fruit world. You know, it's all right. It's like a Stilton. You know.
You know, I'm willing to take my distaste further and simply dislike blue cheese more. How do you like that? That's my compromise.
Oh man.
But my impression of durian fruit, I don't want to sidetrack this into a durian discussion,
I do.
but it's so central to the plot. I think we could probably, because again, my wife eats it a lot, and I think it's more like the number one, it's an acquired taste, but it's also kind of more of an experience eating it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sort of like when you eat spicy
it's got
food.
That armored outer shell you got to crack through and everything. So okay.
Well, what I mean is like when you eat spicy food, like the feeling of being overspiced is not necessarily a pleasant one, but we like doing that for some reason. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's that kind of a thing.
We are gluttons for punishment. That's true.
Well, there's something like if you can get over the hump of it, there's some gain. There's something to be gained. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Oh, it unlocks your fire chi, and it allows you to do completely new martial arts. Anyway, but let's not further divert this into Taoist chi theory, which, by the way, personal gripe, I keep hearing people say Taoist. Please stop. It's Taoism. It's how you say it correctly.
That's because it used to be spelled. We used to spell it the old way, so it used to be with a T. So that's why people pronounce it.
We still spell it with a T, but it's frustrating. Like
I thought we were spelling it with a D. I thought it was spelled with a D now. Haven't we shifted to the
either way? Because I mean, there's no correct
it's pronounced
way to
one way
with the Latin alphabet. It's just there's multiple transcriptions.
I keep hearing it brought up. I've been studying Jigoku and Chinese hell and things like recently, and every single time I do, some Yeoh is like, "This is from Taoism." I'm like, I'm willing to bet it isn't.
Well, I mean,
someone like grew up in the Middle East, like with Arabic, it's like Arabic has a different alphabet. So it's like there's 3 ways to spell Kuwait and multiple ways to spell Muslim in English, and it's just
there's infinite ways to mispronounce it.
Well, like an example, Adam will probably be able to tell you about is the cough and the cough, and there's a K sound that's in the back of your throat, and there's a K sound that's in the front of your throat, and so like the Quran is like with the K sound in the back of your throat, and then there's the rolled G also in Arabic.
But we have K and Q in good old English, and they do sound different to me.
No,
what I'm talking about is like the subtle phonemes.
It's not the same though. It's not like you go caw. It's like way back in the throat when you say.
No. What I mean is that there's a subtle phonemic difference between K and Q whenever you pronounce them. Like, and I could see that there's something like that might get lost.
What's the difference? I
don't know, man. They just feel different. You never.
I think they look different. I don't know if they sound different.
No, they totally sound different to me. I mean,
we're gonna. Okay, I don't want to devolve this discussion into a pronunciation debate. But after this,
right. We should get back on the original topic: durian fruit and how they're basically armpits.
So, all right. So we've already ruined the Jackie Chan discussion. So let's get back into the So anyways,
the point I was making about that fight scene, for the record, is that it's a wonderful blend of action and comedy in a way that, like, you're not really sure where one begins and one ends. To the point where I could see an edit of that scene where they get done with it, and then Will Ferrell rides it on a horse and goes, "Man, that escalated quickly," and it would still be the same scene.
Yeah, it did have that. It did have that feel. It starts out, like you said, like a low-key sort of meeting among criminals, and then the guy just starts smashing that dude with the durian fruit, and then it just devolves into a gunfight with explosions and rocket launchers, and and then go ahead.
Okay, to give credit to the movie, I mean, like I say, it's not a complicated movie, but the conflict between these drug lords really has nothing to do with the main plot. It's kind of this internal thing within the criminals. And it's like, it just creates this feeling of a larger world there's these things going on that it's just nice. It just gives you a little more creativity to the movie having that kind of thing in there.
Well,
And it's all. Oh, go ahead.
It's me sweats thing between Hong Kong and China too. Like there's a lot of that in the movie that isn't central to the plot, but the movie reminds you that there's something bigger. There's a scope outside of it. Like that's really nifty.
Well, it's set sort of almost. It's against like the looming backdrop of 1997 and the changeover of power. So it's and there's references to that in the dialogue. Actually, one thing I did want to mention, that one difference I did know is there's the scene where they're in the boat and they're arguing, and he's basically and she calls him a male chauvinist, and he's he sort of reinforces that impression, and then she says that Mao said that women are the real power in society. In Police Story 3, she actually gives the real quote from Mao, which is something like, "Women hold up half the sky." And I've always felt that's way more impactful in that scene than "women are the real power." Like, because number one, it's just an interesting quote. It's an interesting historical detail. It's
easy to understand in English too. It's like I understand sometimes they'll change a phrase because it doesn't make any sense in English. Like but I can't think of an example. But
well, no, tiger, horse.
Well, it's also a famous quote. It's also a famous quote, so it doesn't make any sense to alter it at all. It's actually more confusing to make it a simpler quotation like that, because I never heard the "women are the real power in society" version, but I have heard the "women hold up half the sky" version, because it's kind of poetic sounding. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
different too. It's the difference between women are better than men and women are equal to men too.
Yeah.
Different statements.
That's a good point. But I did like that dynamic between them, and sort of I thought that was really interesting.
It's a tricky balance doing the rival partners thing. Sometimes it just becomes annoying when the conflict kind of gets in the way of the plot, but that never happens. It's like it's kind of them pushing each other, so it keeps things moving.
The other scene that I really like in this movie is when he goes to visit. So he's pretending to be this guy from China, from like a village near Wuhan or something.
That's great.
And he helps this guy escape, and he's like, "Oh, we're going to go through Wuhan. We'll go visit your family." And so like the agency he's working with is already like 10 steps ahead of him. And they've the police chief that you meet at the beginning of the movie is pretending to be the mom. Micelle Yeoh is pretending to be the sister. But that whole scene is just hysterical. And also, what makes it funny, I think, is the sense of danger behind it. Of if they discover the truth, it's not like a bosom buddies situation where they just lose the apartment. It's like people get murdered, so it's a much higher level of stakes.
I love Jackie Chan's approach to it too. It's like he's just like, he's just hoping something's gonna happen. It's like, next intersection, keep going. He's got no plan at all. He just, how long can I keep this lie going? Maybe something.
Well, every time they ask him a question, he's like, "Who is this lady in the pictures? Is that your wife?" And he's like, well, And you're right. He's just kind of like doing everything he can to stall for time. And then she comes in and is like, "I'm your sister." And he's like, that's correct. Exactly. Sister, who I've always known that fact about. That's incredible. It's really top-notch comedic acting too. The guy can do it all. Like, what a gem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really funny scene. And I like how he does that. That's sort of like, it ties into the whole thing Adam was saying about the character too, where he isn't like the most competent guy in the world. He kind of just gets by the skin of his teeth with it's like a certain amount of relaxation, a certain amount of hope, a certain amount of nimbleness, and just cat-like reaction timing. And even the martial arts, you're not really sure, like, was he trained in martial arts, or is he just like that sort of adaptable to everything that's going on around him, that he's just falling into it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. And this is kind of I'm doing stuff with robots lately in this book, so maybe this is dumb, but okay. So I imagined for 1 second a bunch of these hyper powerful processor computer people, like, robot people, and one of them is like, instead of being like, a classic robot, he's like dressed in a leather jacket and he's like all cool talking like the Fonz, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a high RAM computer. You guys are really good at deep calculations, but I can think on the fly." And I was like, Okay, that's it. Thank you, Brain. Thank you for delivering that to me. So, yeah, Jackie Chan's character is high ramp. He can adapt to almost anything, and he's just lucky enough to pull it off. So,
Yeah.
and just endurant enough that even if you kick his ass horrifically, he can seem to just keep on ticking.
Yeah, he just
So,
kind of goes with the flow in like this real, like speaking of Taoism, he just kind of goes with everything.
thank you, by the way. Appreciate that.
But yeah, no, but that's what's so beautiful about these performances, And again, he's like, there have been stunts where he's like been horrifically injured, but you just get the sense of like he's always gonna kind of, somehow at the last moment find the way to make it not lethal.
Yep.
Yeah. He's like a slapstick version of Corwin of Amber now that I'm thinking about him. Just like doesn't know what's going on, equal blend of opportunism and like unbelievable resilience and just enough luck to make him like not die.
Yeah. But I also think this is what's good about this one too is it's a Jackie Chan film where it's not just about Jackie Chan. It's also like him and Michelle Yeoh are pretty much on equal footing in the movie, which is pretty impressive, I think, because normally he's the main attraction here, and he's the it's his stunt work that stands out. But she's also given that same amount of space, and so again I think that probably comes down a little bit to ego, where he could have just had it be all about him,
True.
but by making it about both their performances, that's sort of the thing that brings this movie to a higher level for me. Like Police Story 1's really good. I highly recommend Police Story 1 as well. But I think I like this one better because it's got more of that balance between a male and a female performer. And I just typically like that. That's one of the reasons, why I like, movies like My Young Auntie and things like that, or any number of those old, Lau Kar-leung movies where there's more balance between the male and the female cast. And this movie just does that really well. You have also Maggie Cheung, who we haven't even talked about, as his girlfriend. I know Joel brought it up briefly, but we haven't really gotten.
Yeah, we brought it up briefly. No, she's actually really good in the movie. She only has a couple of scenes, but each scene she's in is really good. And she's never she's kind of the damsel in distress a little bit, and a little bit of the nagging girlfriend a little bit, but mostly she's a pretty good. She's more of an attribute than a burden. Even in scenes where she's a hostage, you still get the feeling from her that, like she can get out of this situation with a little bit of help, and then she's no longer a hindrance, so we can move on. And the ones where she does help is pretty cool. Like I like whenever there's this wonderful extended sequence right towards the end where she doesn't know that he's on a secret mission, and he's at a resort with his partner, and she misinterprets the situation. She comes up like, oh, he's cheating on me. And then he's got to find a way, A, to hide from her. And when that fails, B, to explain it to her without letting Panther, who is also there, know what's going on. And so he starts creating this lie where she's a prostitute and she's propositioning him. And then later on, she hunts him down in the lobby of the hotel. And she starts to get it. Like, instead of it being, oh, he's using this as an excuse, it's like, oh, wait, no, he is on the job and this is a life or death thing. So she slaps him in the face and tells him off in front of Panther. And it really, like, it surprised me as an audience member. So it definitely, and it worked really well within the context of the scene. So, like, it was great. And it didn't make her seem like just an idiot. So, like, oh, no, my boyfriend here is in a dangerous situation. I can help. Then she does help. It was great.
Yeah,
she has some really. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's similar to the thing with how the rivalry between Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh. It's like it never becomes an obstacle. It's like the same thing with the Maggie Cheung relationship. They don't use it to like have a long scene where she doesn't want him to go on this secret mission or anything, where they use the girlfriend to just drag the movie down and pad it out for another 10 minutes. It's like every time she shows up, it makes the plot more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always good material in it. In the first one, it was similar too. She has some really good scenes in the first one that I remember. There's one on a moped I remember being really funny. That looked kind of painful too. But yeah, this one I think she's more charming than physical in this one. In the first one, she has a little bit more of a physical performance. But I don't know. She's like probably one of the most charming actresses. So I think it's a good use of her talent. Especially when she's like, sort of shifting from really jealous to like suddenly trying to help him. you know, and
That
then
was
getting him in trouble because she's
Yeah.
so happy, she's clever, and then she's patting herself on the back in the elevator, and this guy overhears. And, you know.
Crowded elevator. He's on a secret mission. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a drop the ball moment. But you know, it still
But it was
worked because
funny,
the movie
but-
was comedic. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's just the point. It doesn't. That's
Yeah.
why it's a mistake to say, oh, we need to have this character be elevated in some way, or be no. The character needs to serve the purpose of the scene, and what she needed to do is provide humor in that scene, and so she did. And she also kept the plot moving forward too, because they have to find out in order for the plot to move forward. So,
Exactly.
you know, so it makes sense. I also go ahead.
oh, it gets that great scene in a couple of scenes later where he's got the drug lord's wife and the drug lord has his girlfriend and they're squaring off. That was a great scene.
What I like too, the drug lord, I think his name is Chaibot in this one. I'm assuming he's Thai or Malaysian. I'm not sure. It sounds like a Thai name to me.
Yeah.
But he, I like the situation he has with his wife. They're trying to rescue his wife, and it doesn't seem like it's because he wants to rescue his wife out of love or anything like that. She has the Swiss bank account numbers that he needs, and she's sentenced to death. So they have to get her out of there before, and she will not, and he keeps sending men to try to get the bank account info from her, and she just doesn't do it. She's like, when he rescues me, I'll give it to him then. So
Yeah.
I like the, I don't know, just the very shallow relationship that Chaibot has with his wife.
Pragmatic.
Yeah, pragmatic. That's the word. They have a pragmatic relationship.
Yeah.
And just the sense when it's finally over and she's sort of like defeated on the train and she's giving them the bank account information, you know, it's just a very cathartic moment for some reason because the whole plot is revolved around the Swiss bank account.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot. This movie does a lot with the relationship between women and men, and it does do a really good job of like actualizing that quote that's I guess not in the movie or not translatable in the movie where women uphold half the sky. Because you're right, it doesn't elevate one above the other. It shows that both of them are equally incompetent and capable by turns. So I like that a lot, and I like that there's sort of dualism in the movie where like you've got like a male and female cop trying to take down this male and female drug czar and wife, you know, and the relationships that they have and how they interact and all that stuff winds up being.
I think that's the central theme, dualism.
Yeah, it is, and it's so well realized. It's not, they don't bludgeon you over the head with it. They just let it play out naturally.
Yeah,
you know, and the comedy that comes from it, and the thrill that comes from it, all the drama that comes from it is just like, no, this is a reasonable sequence of events that makes sense considering the nature and capabilities of all those involved. So it's nice. There's nothing artificial about it. It feels very natural. And it's a breath of fresh air because nowadays we just don't do that. Everything is, I have this politics, and they breathe that so heavily into the script that it just weights it.
And it's funny because there's a very political backdrop to it, right? Like the 1997 is a very political moment, but it doesn't feel like a heavily political film for some reason. I think the duality thing, you know, every character has a dual identity. You know, even the police inspector, like his boss, is sort of, you know, plays the mom and plays the father figure, right? Like it's you know, there's the China and the Hong Kong thing. There's just like all these, you know, and it's also kind of split between like that world, but then also like the world of like Southeast Asia too. So there's like all this like, I don't know, it just feels like everything is kind of subdivided a bit.
It's complex without being complicated. It's like there are a lot of moving parts in this movie, but there's never a point where they make it confusing in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, and the goal of each scene is well established and clear throughout that scene. So like there's never a point where you're like, what's happening here? No, he's here to rescue Panther and act like he's a criminal so he can insert himself into Panther's gang. Easy, you know? That's not complicated. Each scene is like that, and it explains itself to you. Usually I have a scene prior to that scene that is like, this is what the next scene's going to be, and guess what the next scene is. It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, and also all that stuff about duality and all that, you don't need to even worry about that at all. You know, it's you know, it's something that's nice to notice after the fact, but that's not the main attraction of the movie. It's really about the action and the stunt work. And the stunt work's complex. The movie is simple, but the choreography of all the action sequences is enormously complete. Like just that scene that we were talking about before, when she's got the vest on and she keeps falling on him, and like all those little beats like require so much forethought. And there's these repeating little jokes, like the joke with the dropping window, where he jumps through the window and then it falls and she hits the window, and then he pretends to throw the grenade, and then she actually throws her grenade and it hits the window and bounces back at them. It's physical humor is like so underappreciated sometimes. I watch a lot of physical humor because, when I'm watching movies with my wife, it's more universal. It's easier for us to both sit and watch a physical comedy and both get it than to watch British comedy or something like that. Like we'll do that too. But what I like about physical humor is you don't even have to speak the same language as people. You can just watch this movie and it translates. And I think that's one of the reasons why a movie like this translates so well internationally, is because there's so much physical humor in it. And it's really well done. Like that grenade joke, I don't know. I just I've seen this movie a million times, and I burst out laughing every time I see Michelle Yeoh hit that window, and every time I see the grenade hit the window panel. And I think again, that's another thing, about being these kind of performers, where you have to be willing. They both need to be willing to like rise to a high level and perform, but they also need to be willing to be like the butt of the joke at different points.
Well, I think, that moment is so funny because Michelle Yeoh through most of the movie is the more competent, serious agent, and her making this dumb mistake at that point. It's just funny because she did it. Like they could have had Jackie Chan do it, and it would have been funny. But having her do it, it's just like, oh, okay, now it's that really caps it. They don't just go one note with the characters.
When they first meet, she's like a high-ranking military person. I forget what her position was, but she's like an official. She's got like the hat and the uniform, and he's like flirting with her, and she's just taking umbrage at it. And it's a very, it's like a perfect comedy team because she's the straight man. You know what I mean? And so it works really well. But like you said, in that moment, having the straight man do that gag was like the smart choice.
Exactly.
And it also made you like her character more too. You know what I mean? Like you if she was stiff the whole time, she wouldn't have been as likable. But it's when she has those moments where something goes wrong that you respond to her the same way you respond to Jackie Chan.
And I also like the pathos between those characters that develops really deeply in that scene, because like she's inside that building when the firefight breaks out and he's not. He's on the hillside. But then like later on when stuff starts catching on fire and the bullets start flying, he's like, "Where's my sister?" And he's genuinely concerned for his partner. So he dives into the fire to save her. She didn't really need saving, as it turns out. But like then like whenever they get out of there together and there's that big square off between the drug lords and the drug lord they're trying to infiltrate shoots her to demonstrate that the vest isn't dynamite, and she falls over and he rushes over to her side like terrified that his partner just got shot. You're like, holy shit, like he actually cares about his partner. This is a moving scene. And then he's laughing because of course the bad guy laughs and people get hurt. And then Chan's all like, "I'm gonna get him, I'm taking him down." He's like furious about it.
Well, that's the thing that's good. These two characters bicker a lot, but they genuinely look after each other through the movie. So that's an important line there.
Well, it's kind of cool that they're fake brother and sister, but they do start behaving like a real brother and sister.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like you said, he says my sister. He doesn't say my partner. Obviously he's supposed to be maintaining cover, but it feels like a genuine utterance. It doesn't feel like he was saying it to put on a performance for them. So, and again, I don't know. Maybe the subtitles are wrong or something. This is through translation, but I don't know. I really like that. I like that. Even though it's fake, when he's there with his family, there's like a sense like this kind of feels like a real family somehow for some reason.
Well, it helps that they cast his actual family in the kind of the same role. I think that observation that the same character was his mother and father effectively in the movie is a good one.
Well, not his literal father, but like I think they call him uncle in the
right. But that's the role, right?
Yeah, he's a father figure, and he plays a father figure, and then he plays. To me, it's pretty clear that that's what's going on there, and. But yeah, I think that the relationship between him and Michelle Yeoh is really interesting throughout the movie because it's like a fake brother and sister, but they really do start to feel like a real family.
Actual real brother and sister at the end.
But yeah, so I don't know. Anything else we want to add on this one? I know Adam has to get going early today.
Oh yeah, we gotta duck out of here, don't we? Yeah, I've still got a little while before I've got to go to work, but Adam's got to pop right over. All right, let's see. Okay, so next we're doing RRR. I think at this point I've delayed enough. I promise, Adam, I will watch it not today or tomorrow. Well, I'll watch it tomorrow evening, and then I will give you my summary prior to getting you to watch it. That way, it'll kind of hopefully ease your transition into this goofy, over the top movie that
I'm not the one that has a problem with it.
Yeah, really? That was me. I'm the one. I'm the one that doesn't like the Indian movies. So
okay, well,
I sent my child watching Bollywood movies with Arabic subtitles, with no idea what was going on. So
you and I are brothers then, in a very important way.
I just don't. You know what it is? I don't like movies where the guys pick up the cars with their hands and throw them. You know, like that's the kind. That's the.
I mean, okay,
it's just not my cup of tea. I'll watch it, and I'll watch it with an open mind. But just don't anticipate that I'm going to have a change of heart watching RRR.
We're going to change your mind.
Yeah.
If not,
I anticipated. I'm a fountain of hope, being the youngest. So
yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, yeah, that explains why you'd be hopeful. That does.
See, you're all old and cynical.
I'm the oldest sibling in my family. So
there you go. I'm the oldest. Yeah, well, I'm the oldest sibling in my family, but like there's only two, so that doesn't.
Oh, so you're not the youngest then? You're the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Okay, I thought you said.
What I just said.
I thought you said you were the. Okay, well, my hearing is shot, so I sometimes mishear what people say.
Here's the thing, though. My mom was the youngest of 6, so I kind of inherited a lot of my optimism from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does.
All right. So I guess we'll head out then if we don't have anything else to cover. Is that?
Well, the last thing I wanted to do was plug your Sons of Lady 86. So got it sitting here, and you always get the last plug. I want to say I've been trying to read this for the last few days, and it is so incredibly dense and beautiful. Sons of Lady 87, Ogre Gate campaign. It seems to be broadly usable in any kind of wuxia campaign, but very specifically for Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate, a wonderful system of amazing wuxia. If you're gonna run Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate, do yourself a favor, pick up a copy of Sons of Lady 87. This is a blueprint for everything you could ever want in a campaign. It is both broad in the sense of how much geographic space it covers, and deep in the sense of how much political space it covers. There are dozens and dozens of well fleshed out and easy to use NPCs. And it is an incredibly impressive product. It's almost staggering in its depth. So, highly recommended. Also, I got to say, I got the soft back here that I got sent. It's really nice. The soft cover is high quality, and it will definitely be able to survive some intense table usage, which you're gonna put it through, as I intend to put it through in the not too distant future. So that's the last plug I wanted to do, folks. Is Sons of Lady 87. Go get it, you cretins.
All right, and the print is through. You can go to like Studio 2 or go to my website. It'll be up there. The PDF is up on Drive-Thru. I don't do my prints on Drive-Thru. And I do need to mention that because people keep assuming I don't have prints when they don't see them on Drive-Thru. But no, most of our books are in print as well. They're just not up on Drive-Thru. So I guess we'll end it there, and we'll be back with it's RRR is the name of the movie, right?
RRR, which it stands for like Rise, Revolt, something or other. I don't know what it actually stands for. I don't care. I just like rolling my tongue and acting like that's the name of the movie. It's grrr.
So we'll be back with RRR, and until next time, we will talk to you later.